Welcome back. Today we're going to be taking a look at another SBC by Radsa, the Cubie A5E. It's a super cool single board computer that I've so far had a lot of fun using. The A5E is powered by an all-winner A527 SoC and an octa-core Cortex A55 CPU. You get 8 cores in total, with 4 performance cores running up to 2.04 GHz and 4 efficiency cores running around 1.4 GHz. For graphics, it uses the Mali G57 MC1 GPU. That means it does support more modern APIs like OpenGL ES 3.2, Vulkan 1.1, and OpenCL. It makes it pretty decent for UI acceleration, some retro gaming, and some light 3D workloads. And we are going to be testing it and using it as an emulator here. For memory, it comes with LPDDR4X RAM available in 1, 2, or 4 gig options. I currently have the 4 gig variant, and so far it's been more than enough memory for everything I've used it for. For storage, you've got a few options. It has a micro SD slot, some optional eMMC, and the big one is an M.2 slot, which you do rarely see on a board this size, so that's pretty cool to see and gives it a lot more potential for some bigger projects. The A5E does come with a lot of good full-sized I/O options. For video, you have a full-sized HDMI port, a MIPI DSI and CSI port. Currently, there aren't any compatible LCDs that I could find. I've tested a few with no luck, and there's none listed in the docs as well. On the network side of things, it includes dual gigabit Ethernet ports, which is great for some smaller router projects, and a PoE hat is available if you want to power it that way. It also has a Wi-Fi 6 and Bluetooth 5.4 module, which is really nice. On this side of the board, you've got one USB 3.0 port and one USB-C that can be used as an USB OTG and power the board. It uses a standard 40-pin GPIO header, same layout as your standard Raspberry Pi, and the board is powered over USB-C at 5 volts, and it typically draws around 3 to 4 amps depending on what you're running. Okay, let's talk about the operating systems. You do have several options, which we will test here, and the main ones are listed on the Radsa wiki, so I'll link those in the description. The Debian Bullseye image is a little lackluster, and I did have quite a few issues with it, which is kind of disappointing, but it is a newer board, so I hope that the OS does get some more support from the Radsa team. However, the Android 13 image ran great, and I really don't have any issues to speak of there. There are some other outside images listed on the Armbian website, like Ubuntu 24.04 and a minimal Debian 13 Trixie image. I tried both, but couldn't get either of them to boot. On the Ubuntu image, I was able to ADB into the board, and it showed that it did try but failed during the boot process. I tried to troubleshoot it, but I really didn't have any luck, so maybe you'll have some better luck than I did. I'll also link those in the description as well. We are going to be using RetroArch for our emulation. We're going to try out some more demanding titles on PS1, GameCube, and PSP. I've already got the Android 13 image flashed onto my SD card. Also, these 32GB SanDisk microSD cards are available on my website, ssbytes.shop, and I really do appreciate any support on there because it does allow me to keep funding these videos and making them. So let's get started, and I'll see you back on the computer. So on a side note, I've been trying to get an external graphics card to actually run on the Cubie A5E. I have an M.2 to Oculink adapter right on the board, and then I do have a PCIe to Oculink, which my RX 580 is plugged into, and it's powered by a 430 watt PSU. I've tried AMD graphics cards, I've tried NVIDIA graphics cards. It'll actually register on the device if you list out the PCIe on the terminal. It'll show the RX 580 or the NVIDIA graphics card. I just can't get any video output or GPU acceleration. I've recompiled the kernels, I've installed drivers manually, I've spent weeks trying to get this to work, so I am going to call it quits. Maybe somebody else will have some better luck there, but I just thought I'd add that. So I thought I would actually go ahead and show you how to flash the Android operating system. So we'll go to the Radsa website, and the Android image is right on there. So we'll go ahead and download it. Download it wherever you want to put it. I have a folder with all of my SBC operating systems. So it will be a .zip folder. So once it is installed, we will need to extract it. And then if you're using the micro SD, which I'm going to be using, you'll need to format it first beforehand. I like to go ahead and use SD formatter. It's super simple, takes a few seconds to do. So now we have everything downloaded and extracted. We'll go ahead and format that SD card. I'll link all the tools that I use in the description as well. So once that's done, we'll open Phoenix Card and we'll select our extracted image. Should be a .img file. So ensure it's the correct drive that you want to install it on, and then you'll hit startup and burn it. So it does take a few minutes, so I will see you when it's done. It is done now, and make sure that your status bar is green and check the output messages for any kind of errors. So everything looks good. So we're ready to plug it in and start using Android. So we're going to go ahead and do a live boot. We just plugged it in so you can see that process from start to finish, how long it takes. Once we actually get in, we already have RetroArch pre-installed on it and a couple of games we could try out. We have some PlayStation 1 games, some GameCube, PSP, and some N64. So we're going to give those a whirl and see how it performs. So from start to finish for the boot process is about 33 seconds, 35 seconds, somewhere right in there. So let's get started. So first up we have Super Mario 64 on the Nintendo 64. So far everything's running really smooth, nice frame rate, audio sounds great. Really no complaints, no trouble emulating N64 games. Some systems do have a hard time with this game in specific for whatever reason, but the Cubie's running excellent so far. And I am clearly not a speedrunner, so please pardon my gameplay. Overall, I give it a pass. So next up, we'll be moving on to PlayStation 1 titles. So we're going to be trying out Silent Hill on PlayStation 1. So far, everything's running like you would expect it to be. You could actually increase the resolution so you do get a widescreen display, which makes it a little bit nicer to look at on the HD modern TV. But again, no issues here. Frame rate looks good. Audio sounds great. Really nothing to complain about. So if you want to run PlayStation 1 games or N64 on the Cubie, it's perfect for that.
What is this? What's going on here?
So overall, I'd give it a pass for PlayStation 1 emulation. We will be moving on to some trickier titles. Next we'll be moving to the PlayStation Portable. So next up we have God of War Chains of Olympus on PSP. Frame rate is mixed. It goes from nearly unplayable to somewhat playable. Audio is also very choppy. So this title specifically, it had a lot of issues with, but I'd say it's still somewhat playable for the most part. It just, as long as you don't mind the choppy audio and then some frame rate dips, or pretty constant frame rate dips. Everything in the RetroArch settings are on the lowest possible. Resolution's all the way down. There's no anti-aliasing. So this is pretty much as good as it's going to get. Overall, I give it maybe a 5 out of 10. Still somewhat playable, but we do have some more titles we'll try out that do run a lot better. Next up, we have Ratchet & Clank Size Matters on the PlayStation Portable. Overall, a much better experience. We were actually able to upscale the resolution so it looks better than it would on a normal PlayStation Portable, and we were also able to turn on anti-aliasing all the way up. Frame rates overall are relatively steady. Audio does have some stuttering, some choppiness. The Cubie can depends on the title. We will be moving on to some more challenging titles. Next we'll be going to the GameCube.
Press and hold the triangle button to quick select another weapon. Try using the analog stick to select the acid bomb glove.
Next up we have Crazy Taxi on the GameCube. We did start off with anti-aliasing ×4, and then we did upscale the resolution just a little bit. It does actually play surprisingly well. The audio, on the other hand, is unbearable. It's super choppy. I've tried changing a lot of the RetroArch settings with no luck. But overall, I'd say it's a positive experience for the gameplay wise. Next, we did try to just go to the base Dolphin emulator settings in RetroArch, which did improve the gameplay a bit. Audio, on the other hand, still very choppy. Overall, I'd say my feelings are mixed on the GameCube emulation. We do have one more game to try, however. And last but not least, we have Luigi's Mansion on the GameCube. Runs a lot better than Crazy Taxi. Audio is a lot better. It might be because it doesn't have constant music playing in the background that you can't tell as much that the audio is choppy, but the cutscenes run great. There are some frame stutters when you actually first load into a level, but other than that, there's really no complaints here. It does play pretty smooth, so I'd give it a pass as well. So if you compare the Cubie A5E to something like the Orange Pi Zero 3W, which is what I run most of my emulation on in my living room on my TV, I'd say the Cubie does actually outperform it in a lot of different areas. The Cubie is unable to do any kind of GameCube emulation, and PSP is unplayable on there, both titles that we tried today. So I think it will replace this as my media center in my living room. I would highly recommend putting a heatsink on it, and I did 3D print a case that does have a 40 by 40 millimeter fan in it to help with the cooling. It does definitely improve the performance. So overall, the Cubie A5E is a tiny, power-efficient SBC with an 8-core CPU and a modern Mali GPU. It does have that dual gigabit networking, the Wi-Fi 6, Bluetooth, NVMe support, and a lot of different expansion options. So overall, I'd say it's one of the most compact and capable all-winner based boards that we've seen so far, and I would definitely recommend it for the price point. I got mine on Amazon for, I think, $35. They are available on A-Race and AliExpress. So there's a few different options and places you can get them. Thank you all very much for watching all the way to the end. I really do appreciate it. And if you could check out my shop, ssbytes.shop, I would greatly appreciate that as well. Until next time, thank you.